Hello there. It is April 11th, 2019. You're watching LaRouche Pack. I'm Jason Ross, and today I'm going to be interviewing Bill Binney on a rather momentous event. Today in London at the Ecuadorian embassy, Julian Assange was arrested relating to a previously sealed indictment from March 2018 filed in the U.S. District Court of Eastern Virginia, charging him with conspiring with Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning, to provide secret documents for then release through WikiLeaks. Bill Binney is quite aware of WikiLeaks' history, and he is an expert on matters of intelligence and on matters surrounding the Russiagate controversy that has been engulfing the United States over the past 2 years. And I don't think that these events are entirely unrelated. So let me start by asking you, Bill Binney, if you could you tell us what your view is of this arrest of Julian Assange today in London?
To me, this is simply a continuation of the takeover of the world by the shadow governments of the world and their relationships internationally. That is the secret governments, but the behind-the-scenes bureaucrats and all that exist and are always there. They don't get voted in and out, and so I view that as I view them as the Praetorian Guard, determining who's president, who's the leader, and what the leader does, because they control all the information that gets fed to the president, for example, to make decisions. So they can tailor what they want him to do by focusing certain information to him and keeping others away, like shadow blocking. You don't allow other opinions to get to him so that he doesn't have the opportunity to see another view. So I view this as simply a continuation of that. This is how they have most of the mainstream media under wraps and doing what they want them to do now. But this is kind of like the nail in the coffin that says, if you ever do something that exposes all the crimes we're committing or any of the criminality that we're doing behind the scenes, if you ever do that, we'll get to you. And this is basically a very bad precedent that says no one in the world can do this without being charged with something. They'll manufacture some charge and say, we need this person extradited to our country, and then they'll take care of you internally in the U.S. with multiple other charges and throw things at you and do everything in secret because they'll call it national security, and you secret so you can't see it. No one in the court can see it except the judge, and they'll go behind closed doors, and the judge and the prosecution will decide the outcome of the trial. So it's all a fabrication. They're not going to give him due process when he gets here, but the message is that everybody else in the world, either you conform to what we tell you to do, or we'll do this to you.
Now, let me put this in context a bit and ask you to comment on that. Just over the past few days, or actually over the past few weeks, we've also had the release of the report by Bob Mueller concluding that the Trump campaign had not colluded with Russia in the election, although it did include, as a tacit assumption, that Russian hacking was an attempt by the Russian government to throw the election to Donald Trump, an assertion that was not challenged by Attorney General Barr in his summary of Mueller's findings. Now, despite this, Mueller has stated that he is concerned and planning to investigate what was going on with Russiagate. I'd like to play a clip from Barr and then get your thoughts on this.
I think spying on a political campaign is a big deal. It's a big deal. Generation I grew up in, which was the Vietnam War period, people were all concerned about spying on anti-war people and so forth by the government. And there were a lot of rules put in place to make sure that there's an adequate basis before our law enforcement agencies get involved in political surveillance. I'm not suggesting that those rules were violated, but I think it's important to look at that. And I'm not talking about the FBI necessarily, but intelligence agencies more broadly.
So you're not suggesting, though, that spying occurred?
I don't. I guess you could. I think spying did occur. Yes, I think spying did occur.
So the fact that you're right. So this is where we LaRouche PAC have said that the whole RussiaGate thing has to turn around and actually become Muellergate, about what was involved in creating this investigation in the first place and the improprieties there. The central theme, though, is going to have to be taking apart the Russia hack myth. Now, you've been very outspoken on that. You've appeared on this website and many websites around the world many times on this topic. The fact that you are one of very few people, including Julian Assange, who is able to speak with a certain level of expertise and knowledge about whether Russia hacked the election and so forth, what implication do you think it has on getting to the bottom of RussiaGate if Julian Assange is arrested? And what effect do you think this arrest has on the ability to get to the bottom of this matter?
Well, I don't think his arrest will have any effect on your ability to do an investigation in this matter. I mean, all they have to do is investigate the NSA databases, plus look at the published data that WikiLeaks posted on the DNC and Podesta and all. And the evidence is already there. The forensic evidence that it was not a hack is very clear and demonstrable in a court of law. So let's have at it. Let's go into a court of law and let's demonstrate this and for everybody to see. I mean, the point is that there's no evidence whatsoever that anything that WikiLeaks published is in any way connected with a hack or the Russians.
Right. Now, and I know that, at a certain point, maybe about some months after the inauguration of President Trump, he had asked then CIA Director Mike Pompeo to meet with you regarding your views on this matter. We can pull up an image here. A few months before he met with you, Pompeo, as we can see in this LA Times reporting, in a speech to the CSIS, Pompeo had said that WikiLeaks was a non-state hostile intelligence service. And in that speech, Pompeo said that WikiLeaks is abetted and aided by the Russians. So I wonder if you could comment on that.
Well, I mean, I would comment very simply put, there's no evidence that the Russians are enabling any of that. The question is, what is the basic evidence? And nobody has any. So, I mean, they came through with in the Rosenstein indictment, listing GRU agents going here and there and so on inside the DNC. Well, I looked at that. Some people assumed that was NSA data. I basically said that it can't be NSA data because NSA data is classified. So if there's any NSA data published anywhere, it's redacted publicly. You can't expose. I mean, otherwise, Rosenstein is guilty of Title 18, criminal codes against for violating the Espionage Act and as well as violating protection of classified material. So that's not from NSA. I assumed that was from CrowdStrike or some other third party doing an investigation of what was left of the DNC servers. I mean, FBI cannot show, a continuous control of the DNC servers because they never had them. So in a court of law, that would be dismissed as unreliable evidence, kind of like hearsay. It's not, the principle of the FBI is to seize the evidence right away, maintain control of it so they can use it in a court of law as the basic evidence. But they never did that. They never had that. So they're only getting whatever somebody tells them from a third party, some commercial company.
Right.
So the whole thing is basically a fabrication. Nobody wants to look at it. They want to profess whatever they want. But I think the Russians are doing discovery now in court with that case. That's going to be great, because now they're going to fess up to what they've been doing.
Right.
I mean, the DOJ is in the, really. I mean, they used even. DC leaks and Goosefer 2, which we can easily prove is a fabrication in a court of law. Let's do that, so that everybody knows, this is a fabrication. So Rosenstein, in using that as a part of his indictments, is also, and he's claiming he's a Russian, working for the Russians. Well, the timestamps we got on the data, inside the data so far, shows somebody on the East Coast, somebody in Central Time, and somebody on the West Coast of the United States, nothing in Russia. So, we are having a very hard time saying, where the hell are they getting this from,
Right.
Except they're just manufacturing this and saying this is what's happening when it's an outright lie.
Right. Along with the, the handkerchief with the initials, the Russian initials, left at the scene of the crime, almost left to be found. We've been here discussing and calling for, and we'll put a link up on the bottom of the screen for people who want to find out more. We've been calling on Trump to declassify the documents regarding the origin of this investigation. Partly, where did the Steele dossier come from? What was the British role with Papadopoulos, Carter Page, and others? To get to the bottom of this, that's the direction to go in. Binney, what I'd like to ask you is, we have heard over the Trump presidency that he is attacking the press, that when he calls CNN fake news, this is a terrible assault on press freedoms and the First Amendment. How do you think Trump calling CNN fake news stacks up with the arrest of Julian Assange as far as an attack on the free press?
Well, I think it's certainly the arrest of Julian Assange isn't an attack on the free press. That's a direct attack. Calling the fake news is simply calling the CNN and various others fake news. That's simply telling the truth. Okay, so I think in both cases we need to tell the truth, and we're not getting the truth yet about Assange, and we need to get to the bottom of that. And we also need, as we pointed out, we need to get to the bottom of how this Russiagate started. But it should begin with, in my view, it should begin with declassifying all the information presented to the FISA court by the FBI and the NSA and CIA and the Director of National Intelligence to get the warrant to spy on somebody in the Trump campaign. They need to declassify that so we can all see that and begin to realize that's the truth of it, and it'll be represented there, and they should be able to the president can declassify anything he wants. If he wants to declassify it, he can go ahead and do that. But I'm sure his advisors are saying, oh, don't do that, national security, protect us, and it's a matter of covering up the entire episode that's going on and actually protecting one another in the crimes they've committed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think that sort of addresses the main nub of the matter here regarding this arrest and the danger that it poses. Do you have anything else that you would like to share with our viewers today, Bill?
Just that nobody in the government, the U.S. government, the House, Senate, Intelligence committees, the Judiciary committees, Mueller investigation, any of the investigations, never wanted to talk about the forensic evidence that we found, both in the Guccifer 2 data and also in the DNC, the documented, posted WikiLeaks DNC data. Nobody wants to talk about that because it doesn't fit into this narrative they manufactured about Russiagate. To get a Russiagate is in order to keep the military-industrial complex going at the level it is, we have to create an external enemy we have to combat that enemy. If we lose our enemy, we don't have anybody to justify our existence, let alone even more trillions of dollars into our pockets. So that's really what's going on here. It's a matter of, even when the Soviet Union broke up, NSA was thinking about, okay, what are we going to do now? Where's our enemy? And so that's why they had to create this World Wide Web is, we don't have control of this. We got to get control of this. So that's why they went that way. And that's where the billions and billions of dollars are. My reckoning is that since 9/11, we have spent, between $1 and $2 trillion on intelligence alone.
That's a lot.
And that's what they want to continue.
Right. Regarding you were bringing up the Russiagate, what was the origin of the FISA warrants? Where is the evidence for the whole Russia hack? You've written a number of articles with the VIPs, with other colleagues in various interviews about the lack of proof on this, and in fact, doing your own forensic work, you've shown that the Guccifer 2 story doesn't hold, as well as by looking directly at the files released by WikiLeaks, that there is more evidence of a copy than of a internet-based hack. Something that Julian Assange himself had said repeatedly. He said this was not a state actor that gave us these files. This is not where it came from.
Yep. Also, Craig Murray said that the former British ambassador said that he met somebody in the American University campus who was involved in a transfer of data to WikiLeaks. So, that is not a hack. That's not evidence of a hack. That's evidence of somebody like we found using the FAT file format, downloading to some kind of portable device, thumb drive or a CD-ROM of some sort, and physically transferring data before WikiLeaks posted it. So that means that for some distance, it was physically transferred before WikiLeaks had it.
Right. And among these people, so Assange, who of course would have firsthand knowledge, Craig Murray, who claims firsthand knowledge, you who've provided forensic evidence and analysis, have, to your knowledge, any of the three of you been approached, or were you approached by the Mueller investigation to get your insights?
Nope, nope. That's the whole point. Nobody wants to know what we found. Also, I would add, I'm not alone in this. There are a number of people in VIPS who are involved, about 5 or 6 of us. Also, some others who are helping us externally and feeding us information that are helping. So it's not just me. I mean, there's probably close to 10 of us here, technical people doing this. So, you know, the forensics part of it is pretty clear. And nobody's challenged it at all. You know, all the things we came up forensically and all the analysis we did, no one has challenged it anywhere.
Right.
I mean, we published it. We showed the data that was out there. You can go look yourself and do your own evaluation. You know, it's not a. We're open to peer review. Problem is, we can't find any peers.
Well,
you know?
yeah, that happens sometimes. Yeah, I mean, so you put out these articles. Adam Carter, I know the Forensicator just put out a new analysis. I believe published yesterday or today. So things are still moving very quickly on this. So let's put up that link at the bottom again there for people who want to find out more about exposing the true origins of Russiagate. And Bill Binney, thank you so much for your analysis, for your willingness to speak out, and thank you very much.
Thank you.